Hi and hello students, welcome back to Scholar IAS current affair classes. Hope you're all doing good. Let's get into the class. The first article is on off-budget borrowing. Okay, so this is an article related to your GS3 economy section, and this is an article from Indian Express newspaper. So why is that off-budget borrowing is an issue? Let's try to understand that. Governments normally restore to procurement of off-budget borrowings to reduce the fiscal deficit. Okay, so before we understand it deeper, first let's try to understand what fiscal deficit is. If you had studied economy, you would have known what fiscal deficit. It is basically a indicator for the level of borrowings. So it is the difference, basically it's the difference between government expenditure and the revenue it earns. That's what it tries to convey. And if you remember the formula, it is basically the total expenditure minus the revenue excluding the borrowings. So basically fiscal deficit gives you the level of borrowing. This is the formula. And this FD, why is this particular indicator is being used is, it actually helps to understand the financial health of the government, so that you would understand whether government is actually getting enough revenue to actually spend on the necessities. This also is used, this indicator, particular indicator also is used in determining the credit rating of a company, of a country. So you would have seen A plus, A plus, BBB plus, BBB negative. So these are different ratings have been given by different rating agencies. So for these credit rating agencies, this FD is important. And also, just because of these two reasons, that is the credit rating and financial health, the FD is very important and it should be maintained within a limit. So to avoid rise in FDs, financial deficit, the government resorts to offshore or off-budget borrowing, so that it doesn't get included in the FD. So what is this off-budget borrowing? This is basically a type of loan that the government borrows, but it doesn't borrow it directly. This is very important. The government is not getting it from the public or any other institution directly, but it gets the money through a different institution, different public institution. It can be a PSU or a bank. So they get the money through this institution, and these public institutions borrow it from the public or any other institution, international financial institutions. But this money is used by the government to fulfill its expenditure. Okay, so just because it is coming through a different organization, different public organization, and the government is not directly involved in borrowing, it's not counted under FD. Okay, that is fiscal deficit. And this, because of this, the fiscal deficit remains within the limits. So we know under FRBM there are limits for fiscal deficit, and within this, to operate within this limit of 3% as per the FRBM Act. So this fiscal deficit doesn't get inflated because of borrowing, as it is done through another institution. The government is circumventing the whole process itself, whole process of borrowing. So as we mentioned, we are just giving you some examples to understand it in a better fashion. So I told you that this off-budget borrowing happens through a different institution that the government does. For example, let's take the case of food subsidy. Okay, so the two main authorities that are involved is the government, and next is the FCI. So what happens is, to reduce its fiscal deficit, the government pays from its budget only a particular amount, let's say half of the amount for food subsidy. If it is 10,000 crores, let's say the government would be paying like 5,000 crores out of its budget. The remaining 5 crores is paid through the FCI, that is Food Corporation of India, which actually borrows from NSSF, that is National Savings Fund. This is just an example. FCI can even raise loans directly from the public by issue of bonds. So it's just a means to raise fund, but done through a different organization, not by the government directly. That is what the important point is. So what happens when this kind of mechanism is in place? The government's budget the government's expenditure on the food subsidy is reduced by half. And this is the reason, though the government is indirectly borrowing, the Comptroller and Auditor General has specifically mentioned that this has to be reduced. This off-budget financing functions has to be reduced, because though right now FCA is able to fund it through a different by raising the money from the public or through different organization, at the end government will have to support FCI. So again it is going to come back at the government, but not immediately, but at a later time. So this is why CAG is cautioning the government to reduce this type of borrowings. While technically it is not an issue for the government, as the FD, it doesn't reflect in the FD, but in the long run it is going to have an impact, and it would give a free way for the government to raise money through multiple PSUs, which is not a healthy way of governing the finances, government finances. So that's the reason CAG also is stressing upon this. So students, the important point for prelims is that you should be able to understand the way what off-budget borrowing is, because there could be a question, a single statement question, where they could give 4 options, illustrative options that they would ask you to select which of the following is a type of off-budget borrowing. So for that you should have a deeper understanding of the concept itself. So the main concept is that the government doesn't borrow directly, that is it. And from mains point of view, this is a point to, you can actually add the off-budget borrowing practice of government can be used in any other question which discusses about the government's finances. So these are the ways this question can be used for your preparation. This content can be used for your preparation. So let's move on to the next article. The next article is on solar energy. Again, this is also related to your GS3 environment paper. So what is in the news first? Let's try to understand. So bank is being proposed, that is World Solar Bank, okay, WSB. And in this bank, Government of India is planning to become a lead member, okay. And this bank has been proposed by ISA, that is International Solar Alliance, in which India is a founding member. We know that. Along with France, India launched ISA, and its headquarters is situated in Gurgaon, India. So what exactly the Government of India is proposing is that it tries to purchase 30% stake in this World Solar Bank. And also ISA is planning to set up WSB in India. So it's normal, because ISA is itself in India and it is planning to set up WSB in India based on a feasibility study. Of course, a feasibility study has been done, and based on that they are planning to do that. And if this proposal gets accepted in the ISA, WSB will become the first multilateral development bank with its headquarters in India. Because you know that AIB, ADB, these banks are situated in China and Japan, and we also have BRICS. So there are multiple banks that are associated with development banks associated with multiple countries, but not in India. So this will be the first bank to be situated in India, multilateral development bank, that is WSB. Okay, and India had a solar power generation of less than 3 gigawatt installed solar capacity, and now it is currently at 37 gigawatts. See, these are the stats that are associated with India's achievement in solar power. Okay, and this particular 37 gigawatts constitutes almost 10% of total installed power capacity in India. So students, see, while you can't be remembering about this 37 gigawatt or the 3 gigawatt, but you can use this fact that there is 10% of total installed power is from solar energy. This is a point that you can use in your mains, and it would be a bonus thing to boost your answer. Okay, though this 37% gigawatt is a 10% share in the total power capacity, but India has a target in its renewable energy targets. It has 100 gigawatt target for solar power alone, and that is aims to achieve by 2022. So what happens, what it requires is a large area of solar panels to tap the solar energy. As we are a tropical country, tropical nation, we have the capacity to tap this much of power, and we should be able to generate this 100 gigawatt of solar power and to increase our share of renewable energy and to reduce fossil fuels. Though we have the potential, being a solar tropical nation, we have the potential to tap energy, there are certain challenges associated in this process, whole process, because this setting up solar panels has to have has multiple challenges in the way of input materials. That is, it requires the solar cells that form a part of the solar panels are mostly produced in China and Taiwan. Okay, and these constitute almost 66% of worldwide output. So what happens? Basically, we have to be import dependent. We have to depend on China and Taiwan for making these solar cells. Also, these cells, though even if they are imported, they can actually convert less than 20% of sun's light into electricity. So the question arises around the efficiency of such solar cells. So to tackle this efficiency, there is an research idea that says that films like perovskite films, okay, when these are used, the conversion of light into energy is high. That's what the research says. But this is still an idea and it has not been implemented. And the other challenge with respect to solar power is that the area it requires to produce power. For any area, for the solar power plant to be set and to produce an reasonable amount of energy out of it, generate reasonable amount of energy, it requires a large surface area. And this is a issue because there are multiple issues associated with, like, let's say, land acquisition issue, and next comes the investment issue and the ability for PPP models to work. So there are multiple issues associated with this particular challenge, and what these things point out is we need some efficient scientific efforts to increase and resolve these challenges, so that once efficient technology comes out, the world would be ready to invest in clean future, because any investment would happen with an expectation for better returns, and better returns can be expected only when the investment is reasonable and it is feasible. So the scientific efforts has to take these into account and should be able to come out with better results, and Indian scientific organizations should be working towards that. So students, we have come to the end of the session. Hope you like the class. For more videos, please subscribe to our channel Skholar, and as well as visit our platform skholar.com for more content on static as well as current affairs. Okay, see you. Bye bye. Happy learning.